Hello and welcome to the China Mining Club. I'm Oliver O'Donnell, Head of Research at VSA Capital, one of the partner companies behind the club. I'm delighted to be joined today by Peter Secker, Chief Executive of Bacanora Lithium. Peter, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Oliver. Thank you for having me.
We're looking forward to hearing about the project. So why don't you give us a quick overview of the company and your assets in Mexico?
Okay, I'll start with Bacanora. We're a London-listed public company, have been working in Mexico for the last 10 years and focusing for the last 6 years on the Sonora Lithium project. Sonora Lithium is located in the province of Sonora on the west coast of Mexico. And what we have discovered there is one of the largest lithium deposits in the world. It's almost 9 million tons of lithium carbonate. It's going to produce 35,000 tons of lithium carbonate a year, which means that it's a 250, 300 year project that's located very close to the coast, very close to the port, close to road access, close to power, and produces some of the best quality lithium carbonate that has been shipped to China. We've been working there for 6 years. We've been operating large-scale pilot plants in Sonora for 4 years. As I say, from those plants, we've been shipping battery-grade carbonate to both China and Asia, and that material runs 99.9%, 99.99%. So we produce a high-value product. We have a team in place in Sonora. We have almost 50 people who operate the plants and work on the engineering for the project. The project itself is fully permitted. We have all of our environmental permits in place. We have all of our construction permits in place, and we have operating permits. At the present time, we're just completing detailed engineering. That work is being done both in Mexico by ourselves and also by our joint venture partner. Our joint venture partner is Ganfeng Lithium, based out of Shanghai and Xinyu in China. And Ganfeng are a 30% shareholder in Bacanora, and they're also a joint venture partner in Sonora. So they own 22.5% of the project, and they are doing most of the detailed engineering for the lithium part of the plant. So they will be assisting us to build the plant. That engineering work will be completed within the next 3 to 4 months. And the plan is that we want to start construction in Sonora second quarter of next year and be in production the first quarter of 2023. Initially producing 17,500 tons a year of lithium carbonate, and then growing that in a stage 2 expansion to 35,000 tons a year. And very nicely on the cost curve, we fit very close to the bottom of the curve. We compete very nicely with all the lithium producers in South America. So we will produce lithium carbonate for just over $4,000 per ton, which makes us cost competitive with all of the South Americans, and obviously significantly cheaper than the Australians from their hard rock deposits. So it's just a quick summary, Oliver, giving you a background of what we're doing and how we're doing it.
And many of our listeners in China are probably not that familiar with Mexico. Ganfeng is one of the first major Chinese companies to get involved in a mining project in Mexico. So perhaps you could give us an overview on the Mexican mining industry and the operational nuances there.
So we're in Sonora State, which is in the northwest corner of Mexico, and our northern border is actually Arizona. So to go from the capital of Sonora, which is Hermosillo, to Tucson or to Phoenix is about a 3-hour drive. So we're very close to the US border, very close to the southern US. Sonora itself has a population of about 5 million people. Hermosillo is almost 2 million people. And Sonora is the second largest mining province in Mexico. It has some of the largest copper mines in the world. It has about 20 gold mining projects, another 30 silver mining projects. So a significant expertise in the mining industry. It has access to ports. There are 3 large ports on the coast, and from there you can access all of the Asian capitals. And more importantly, it has access to some of the cheapest power in the world. So gas from the Texas basins, from Waha basins, comes down into Sonora. So we get access to cheap gas power that makes all of our energy consumption very cost competitive with any of the low cost producers. So access to infrastructure, roads and ports, access to people because there's a strong mining culture, access to energy, and a government in Sonora that's very supportive of the mining industry and has given us significant help in getting the project to this stage.
And how's, you mentioned that you've achieved your permits and everything. How difficult has that process been? You've hired locals to help you with government representation and that sort of thing. How's that process been? Yes,
the Mexican environmental process needs to meet World Bank or international environmental standards. So it was a 3-year process, 1.5 years of background studies and site studies, 6 months of consultation with local communities and with government, and then 12 months of the actual permitting process itself. And the accreditation, whether you call it EIS or MIA, which is the Mexican term, meets IFC or World Bank standards. So it's a long process, very formal, but there is a timetable, and once you have submitted documentation, the timetable for approval, assuming that you meet all of the hurdles, is about 12 months. So we submitted those, I guess, project plans 18 months ago, and we received our approvals just over 9 months ago. So a relatively efficient and quick process in Mexico.
And Ganfeng are obviously bringing a lot of technical expertise to the project, but you got them on board, you got Hanwha on board, and you've had a pilot plant running successfully for a number of years, producing high quality lithium carbonate. Within your own team, there's clearly a lot of technical expertise in order to be able to achieve that. Perhaps you could highlight some of the experience amongst your board and senior management.
Yes. So the first thing we did as a company was set up a team in Mexico who had worked in the lithium industry. I mean, I've been working in the lithium space for the last 10 years. We brought a project director down from the United States. He'd worked in both North America and South America. Eric Carter's got almost 30 years experience, and he brought with him a team of 4 chemists and process engineers who'd also worked in the industry. So we have a core team of experts with over 120 years experience between them, and they have recruited a local Mexico-based group, all working in Hermosillo. And those guys, process engineers, chemists, metallurgists, have now been working on lithium pilot plants in Mexico for the last 4 years. So we have quite an experienced team on the ground, and they're obviously integrated with the Ganfeng team. Ganfeng are doing engineering out of Xinyu, and so that interchange of expertise is on a regular basis. On the board side, our chairman, Mark Honan, Mark's been in the mining industry for almost 50 years. He's built mines in Australia and South America and Africa and Europe. Jamie Strauss, a broker out of London, he's been involved in the mining industry for a number of years. We have a local director based out of Mexico City. He's our liaison with the government in Mexico, Andres Antonius, who's worked in the energy industry for over 25 years. So quite a sophisticated board. And then we have 2 directors from our major off-takers. So Ganfeng is a 50% off-taker, and Wan Xiaoshen is on our board. He's deputy chairman of Ganfeng. And Hanwha Corporation, which is a trading group out of Japan, they have another 50% of our offtake. And Junichi Tomono, who's their head of chemicals, is also on our board. So a well-rounded corporate mining and lithium-based board that meets on a regular basis, both in the UK where we're based and also in Mexico.
And so now looking forward, what are your milestones for the next sort of 18 months, and how have you been impacted over the last few by coronavirus?
Right, the coronavirus was slow to come into Mexico, so we were operating the pilot plants up until April this year. Then, as the infection rate increased, we shut down in April, and the plants were shut down until early July. The rate in Sonora, infection rate, has been well contained. It was well managed by the local government. And now the infection rate definitely peaked in July and is now falling very quickly. So plants are now open in Sonora and operating again. So we lost probably 4 months in terms of both engineering and working of the plants. In terms of our milestones moving forward, we will finish all of our detailed engineering and engineering design and engineering contracts by the end of this year, and we want to have engineering construction contracts in place Q1 of next year. We want to be actually working on site in the second quarter, and that initial work will be bulk earthworks and civils, moving through to mechanical and electrical structural work towards the end of 2020, early 2021, and having the plant completed and ready to commission by the first quarter of 2023. So we will be producing a battery grade product for shipping to both China and Japan in the first and second quarters of 2023, and ramping up to full production by the end of 2023.
And we've talked about a couple of your strategic partners, mostly on the sort of technical side in terms of offtakes. You've also got quite strong financial support from institutions. So how does the financing package look at the moment for the overall upfront capex? Okay,
so we currently have just over $40 million cash in the bank. We have Ganfeng as a 30% shareholder. We have M&G, which is one of the largest institutions and insurance groups in the UK, as a 20% shareholder. And we have Hanwha Corporation, our second off-taker, as a 5% shareholder. So 55% of the equity from the project will come from those major shareholders. We have a mine finance package from Red Kite Mine Finance. That's a London-based fund. That's $150 million of debt facility. And we have new shareholders coming in from both the UK and the United States. So Ganfeng will fund their share of the project. So their share is 22.5%, which is $100 million. So we have $100 million of Ganfeng investment into the ground, $150 million of debt from Red Kite, $40 million in the bank, and about $100 million of new equity coming in from new investors. So the whole financing package will be completed in Q1 of 2021, ready to go into construction in Q2. And I think we've got time for a couple more questions, but at the moment you're targeting about sort of 30,000 tons in total, but that only touches a very small percentage of the resource, and you can see in the images in the slides that it's a vast resource. So scalability is clearly one of the key factors that Ganfeng and your other partners have identified. How important to them is consistency and being able to scale that up over the long term? But when you look at the demand for lithium in the next decade, currently around 300,000 tons of lithium carbonate equivalent a year, growing to over a million tons, maybe even 1.4 million if you believe some of the more bullish forecasts. So yes, demand is growing at least 15 to 20% year on year. As you say, when you look at our deposit, the main ore body is 40 meters high and stretches for 7 kilometers. It's a 200-year resource. So we can scale it up. We've looked at production profiles from 17,500 to 35,000 to 50,000 tons a year of lithium equivalent. And each construction phase is about 18 months. So we could go from starting work to being a 50,000 ton a year lithium producer within 4 years. And that is the plan. I mean, obviously we're looking at the markets and how quickly they're growing, but yes, Ganfeng has invested in us because they see us being one of the largest producers in the world within the next 5 years, supplying a high-grade product that will go straight to the Asian market.
And then finally, I think ESG is obviously one of the most important issues now in investing, and perhaps more so in this industry where the energy transition is sort of hinged on improving the environment. How have you factored those kind of issues into your project design?
And the main thing is to make sure that you comply with both local standards, which are critical, but also international best practice standards. And we've done both. We meet all of the World Bank and IFC requirements for the project. So in terms of safety, waste discharge and tailings discharge is done as a dry material. So we stack a dry tailings rather than a wet tailings to minimize spillage risk. We're a zero discharge site, which means that we don't discharge water off-site, that we recycle all of our water to minimize loss. And the nice thing about the project is that it produces waste material, which are mainly fertilizers. We produce both a sodium sulfate and a potassium sulfate, which are both agricultural fertilizers. So the waste that we discharge as tailings is a fertilizer material that is benign to the environment. So zero discharge, dry tailings, waste material that's inert and fertilizer based. That's the environmental safety aspect. Just as importantly, we have strong relationships with the local community. The site itself is quite remote. It's freehold land. We haven't displaced any persons or people at all. The nearest town is about 20 kilometers away, Bacanora, a town of 1,000 people. We have been working with them for the last 4 years. We employ as many locals as we can with the work we do, and we will give preference to those people as we grow into production. And obviously, we will build the projects with overseas help, but once we get into production, all of our personnel will come from within Mexico and predominantly Sonora. So a large focus on both the local economy and the Sonora economy. And then just making sure that the monitoring programs on an ongoing basis comply with all of our permitting and also comply with best practice. So strong relationships with communities, strong environmental, credibility, and making sure that we maintain that credibility as we move forward.
Peter Secker, thank you very much. We look forward to following your progress.
Oliver, thank you for having me.